Welcome to Sales Strategy, a podcast about sales, business, and strategy, brought to you by NathanManthoneke.com. Welcome to another episode of Sales Strategy. And if you are in business, if you're an entrepreneur, or if you are in sales, it doesn't matter how long you've been in sales, you probably appreciate the value of your personal brand. Somebody said the personal brand is what people say about you when you are not in the room. And how can you change? How can you transform the way people talk about yourself? Well, I would say probably you agree with the idea that that's the sum of how you present yourself, how you act, what you say, and how in alignment those things are with your values and what you say you represent. So how can you transform in a more powerful way who you are, how people perceive you, and how powerful your brand is? Well, let me tell you about the potential hazards or dangers of not taking care of your personal brand when you are doing sales or when you're doing business networking. Probably you've seen this many times. Some great business owners, some great salespeople show up to networking events and they invest a lot of time. They invest a lot of effort and they do an honest investment, very, very, probably I would say very expensive investment in terms of time and focus on that networking effort that they're doing. But the trouble is that their personal brand is not up to par. What people notice is either they lack the experience or they seem to lack the manners, they seem to lack the capacity to do what they say, to put their money where their mouth is, in a way. And obviously that affects their personal brand because they don't have a personal brand that represents credibility and is kind of tough or is difficult to refer business to them. So personal brand for these kind of people becomes a liability. And that's one of the main advantages of business networking. You get visibility for the better and for the worse. You get visibility, and if you do things right, your personal brand grows and improves. And also you get great visibility. So unless you do that fantastic work, if you make a mistake and you are not able to come from it because you're not able to correct or amend the situation, your personal brand is seriously damaged. So what does that mean? Well, we are all imperfect. We're all going to make mistakes in a business life. And if you've been in business for any length of time, you know that lots of things can go wrong. So it's not a matter of if something will go wrong, it's a matter of when things go wrong and how do we act when that happens. So what does that take us? Well, first of all, how do you build your personal brand? And once you have built your personal brand as an entrepreneur, you build your personal brand to some degree as a salesperson, how do you make it better? What are the next steps? And when I talk about personal brand, I'm not talking necessarily just about your logo, if you have a logo. I'm not talking just about your website, if you do have a website. I'm talking about everything that involves your public image, how you present yourself. And that could be the way you look, the way you dress, the way you speak, the way you network, the way you present. When you have the possibility of doing a presentation in any event, how you speak in social media, what kind of posts are you sharing, what kind of articles, how do you write, all those things that come out of you, any sort of communication from you to the world, either verbal or non-verbal or written, all sorts of communication. And to me, everything starts with what I called your emotional footprint. That to me is the basis of your personal brand. And That means that you know who you are, what you represent, and why people should do business with you. If you are selling, that would be why people should buy from you. If you are doing business networking, that would mean why people should trust you enough and your personal brand to do business with you in the way of sending referrals your way. So, how do you build that? Well, let's think about this as a process that probably if you are in marketing or you like marketing, remember the time when you prepare a website for a client, or when you prepare a logo for a client, or when you went somewhere to have your logo done on your website. That professional very likely would carry out a marketing briefing for you. And what does that mean? Well, a marketing briefing, in a way, and people from marketing may correct me, is a process that enables you to document what a customer stands for. It represents what a customer wants. So with that marketing briefing, you have a very good idea of what kind of copy, what kind of text you're going to use on the website. If it was a logo design process, that marketing briefing would give an idea of what is the identity of that business person. What is the identity of the business? And that can include not just the values of the business owner or the values of the business. It can also include the vision statement, the mission statement, the objectives of the organization, the goals of that person, and any other aspects that can represent who the person is. All of that creates that brand identity, either a corporate brand or a personal brand. So when you're thinking about your personal brand, there's not much different really. You need to do your own personal brand briefing or your own personal marketing briefing in that sense. And how do you do that? Well, that's something I help my customers with through consultancy and training, but I'm going to share a few ideas on how you can assess what your personal brand should look like. And often what I find when I do networking, when I speak to people, is that many individuals, many business owners, many salespeople are fantastic professionals, but they don't have a personal brand that is consistent with who they really are. And that gap between who you really are and what you stand for and what your personal brand projects to other people, to the market, is a problem, because it means you are not projecting what you want. You are not reaching your target client in the way you want to. You think you might do, but when you study it, when you analyze it, you realize that's not the case. So how could you build that emotional footprint that I was discussing here? Well, let me tell you a few questions. The first one could be, what are you truly good at? What is your USP? What do you think is the single thing that you do the best? Something that is extremely professional, extremely knowledgeable. What is that? And once you identify in which regard you are extremely professional, in what aspect, then that will help you to identify what is your message map. Where do you start from? I'll give an example. In my case, my true specialty is listening to people. That's something I do extremely well because I love people, because I like being around people, and because I cultivated that active listening over time. So in my case, in my consultancy, that listening part is critical, is crucial to find how to help a business owner, how to help a company, a sales team, an organization. So find what that is. And could you break that down into bullet points, into atoms, if I may say that? So when you say I'm really good, when I say, for example, I'm really good at listening or giving consultancy, in what ways? Okay, I listen really well. I've got a structured approach to how to help them. I've got a method that worked for me over the last 10 years. What is yours? What are the different bullet points or the different details on how you are good at what you're good at? And then another question is, why is it that you do it? Why is it that you enjoy doing that thing that you do so well? What do you get out of it? And when I mean what do you get out of it, I don't mean, okay, it feels good, it feels great, it's something I enjoy, I've done it all my life, this is what I know how to do. What I mean is, try to be specific. Try to be so specific that you detail how do you feel when you're able to provide that service that you're so good at. And try to recall the basic feeling. Don't say good. Say excited or describe different emotions and feelings. And the funny thing is that if you're anything like me, particularly blokes, we are a little bit, not really inclined to talk about emotions. You might struggle a little bit to describe with emotions how do you feel when you do that thing that you do so well. And that's okay, by the way. You are who you are. But make an effort, if you need to, Google different feelings, positive feelings or negative feelings, to define, to describe how you feel when you deliver that product or service in which you're so good at. So describe the emotions. How do you feel? What do you get out of it? And once you define what you get out of it, what would you like them to have? What should be the main advantage, the main competitive advantage of working with you? And one way to realize how you work and why you're good at what you're good at is when you think, what kind of people you tend to attract. Do you tend to attract clients that are exactly the type of clients that you would like to have forever? Is that what you attract? I give an example. I tend to attract, in my consultancy sessions, business owners that have been trading for about a decade, roughly, sometimes a couple of decades. Usually they are youngish. They are in the late 30s, mid 40s, up to the late 50s, I would say. Usually they have children, anything between 7 to 17 years old, sometimes a lot older than that. Usually those clients have had employees in the past, or have many employees actually, and they struggle with motivating their teams. They struggle with motivating themselves very often. I tend to attract salespeople that need to revamp their portfolio of tools and strategies to get better results. So usually people that would get closer to nathanmanzaneke.com or to myself as a person, they would be people that want to sell more, people that want to clarify their business. And if they are salespeople, I would say they want something new. They want to grow both on a personal level and also on a professional or business level. And very often, I would say I enjoy the most working with personal growth and professional growth freaks, in a way. People that really enjoy to work on themselves, to work on their skills, and to work not just on those aspects, but to work on the companies, on the business, on the strategies, and they really enjoy that part. So if you think about your business and you divide that into different units, into single services or types of services or lines of products, can you think of what line in your business, what kind of service you enjoy the most? Which one is your favorite? Do you have it? Why do you think you enjoy that particular line so much, or that particular service? And can you find a moment in time, can you find a time where for the first time you realize, hey, I'm getting good at this. This is enjoyable. I want to be doing this the rest of my life if I can. Do you have that moment? For some people that was a long time ago. Maybe they saw somebody offering the service or selling that product. Maybe it runs in your family and your granddad or your dad have done that particular activity, professional activity for donkey's years, and you were inspired as a kid. Or maybe something happened when you were young that moved you to be interested in a particular subject, and from that moment onward, that's everything you wanted to do. So what I want you to think is, your personal brand very often revolves around who you really are and what you really enjoy doing. So when you identify what is it that you enjoy the most, what got you in the first place to start in the industry, in the sector that you work in nowadays, that in itself is going to help you to identify, am I being true to my real personal brand, to who I really am? And if you can track that down to a specific moment in your past, that can help you to build your brand story. In my case, it has to do with my difficulty to socialize when I was a young one. And I found that I felt more comfortable with people that were a lot older than I was, but I felt so awkward, so socially awkward when I was with people my own age. And as a kid, I kind of struggled there. I was the guy that was the fat boy. I was always the guy with the huge, super thick glasses because I was short-sighted. And I was so short-sighted that I looked awful. So many other things. I used to dress like a much older person because those were the clothes that my parents bought for me. Back in the day, they thought that was the done thing because they were posh and nice. They were supposed to be posh. But the thing is, I looked really weird for my peers. I was, probably you have guessed, I was bullied for many years at school. And that left a very strong mark on me as a person. It made it quite difficult for me to communicate to other people. And it made me obsessed with learning how to better communicate, how to be able to engage with other people in a way that I was respected, that I was accepted, that I could blend in with other people. So I became very passionate about communication. And probably I started in sales because it was so far from my comfort zone that it was that challenge that I felt would enable me to be better, to be liked. And that has been probably the origin of who I am and why I do what I do. Why now I'm doing consultative coaching for companies all over the place. So my example is just an example on how you can try to identify what could be your personal brand, what it should revolve around. So that brand story that you can build by answering yourself these questions, that brand story, how does it relate to who you are right now, to the decisions you make in business, to the kind of industry you work in? And also, if you think about it, that emotional footprint, that brand story, how can you use it better when you design a product or a service and when you want to convey why what you're offering is way superior to your competitors? The cool thing is that no person on earth can say that they have exactly the same personal story, brand story, or emotional footprint, as I call it, than you. You are very unique. There's not another person with your name, with your background, with your context, with a unique set of circumstances, with your memories. Nobody else is like you. So when it comes to differentiate yourself, maybe you agree that most people in an industry do very similar things, your personal story is going to make a difference. And people don't want to do business with companies, they want to do business with people. People buy people, you've heard that before, I'm sure, and people buy experiences. They want to feel truth, honesty, authenticity. So if you share with somebody who you really are, that is going to help you. That is going to help you build a strong brand, something that rings true. And when they meet you, when they get to know you as a person, that personal brand that you might have promoted and communicated will sound even more authentic. Because everything you say when you open your mouth, everything you do, because it's aligned with who you really are, is going to ring true to them. And they're going to feel more confident in working with you. And of course, not everybody is going to like your personal brand, that's granted, because you're not like $100 note. Not everybody's going to like you. And some people will feel a little bit uncomfortable with your brand because, I don't know, for whatever reason, they might not be aligned with your values. And that's fantastic. That's great, by the way. And to give an example, what kind of phone do you have? Do you have a Galaxy? Or do you have an iPhone? Or do you have a Huawei? What do you have? And usually the kind of purchase decision that you make revolving gadgets and phones and computers has to do with what you value most. If you value openness and you want a supplier to be open to use any kind of software, any kind of peripheral, I don't know, like chargers and so on, are you going to go for an Apple device? You're not, because Apple is not exactly the most open software or gadget company. They pride themselves in not being open, in having their own gadgets, their own systems, their own everything. You're probably going to be a Windows guy or a Google guy. But if you value more beauty, simplicity, excellence, you might be an Apple guy. You might be. I'm not saying that you have to, but if you value those things, arguably, we could say that Apple's values reflect exactly those things. And in the same way, with your personal brand, you are going to be communicating who you really are. What is your emotional footprint, your vision, your mission. Also, you're going to share what your values are, what you really stand for. And the great thing about this is that people that really value the same things that you do are going to feel attracted to working with you. They're going to prefer it if they can have a choice. So how is this going to affect your personal brand? Well, I would say the first thing we want to do is to reassess our personal brand if you have one already. And ask yourself, everything about my personal brand, if I got a logo, website, does my website reflect who I really am after doing this assessment? The colors, the font, the tone of the brand, the kind of tone when you speak, when you record a video, when you share something on Instagram or LinkedIn, when you write an article, a post, does that reflect who you really are? Do you feel quite comfortable that's you? Or do you appreciate now after reflecting on these things, that's not really me, that's not what I represent, I'm not 100% happy that this is what I am. So if you find out that there's a difference, there's a gap between who you really are and what you think your personal brand is and what it is at the moment, this is a great opportunity to reassess that. When I work with clients in consultancy, what we do is that we review all that material. We go over all the websites, the catalogs, any presentations they do for networking events, PowerPoints, everything. We examine everything, really, to assess how happy they are, that represents who they are. And once we go through these exercises to reassess their emotional footprint, it really helps them to nail that message that they are sending. And it makes me really happy to see how that usually means that they have a better turnover, a better return on the marketing activities, their campaigns, when they are doing advertising or promotion and they have adjusted the branding. That really helps. And one of the easiest ways, what do you say? That changes a lot once you do this assessment. And I invite my clients to do that frequently. Very often we do a yearly review of the personal branding, and we assess that we bring something new, something fresh. So we go deeper into that personal brand. We go stronger to some particular target clients. And by the way, when you reassess your personal brand, that also has an impact on who you work with in terms of collaborators, in terms of customers. Depending on your real values and who you really are, some of the clients you may have been working with in the past, when you think about it, they might not actually be your target client. You might have started working with them for many reasons, maybe because you had to, you thought you had to, or maybe because you felt the need to help them, but they are not really the kind of clients that you feel more aligned with. They might not be the kind of clients that you really wanted in the past or you really want to target. So if you think about it this way, going to the future, going to the next, 5 years, 10 years, and ask yourself, what kind of clients would I like to be working with in 5 years' time? Who do you see? And can you describe them? The kind of person that this client is, how big the company is, how is the collaboration process with that client? Is it online? Is it face-to-face? Is it in your same country? Is it with people globally? How do you see yourself working? Do you have it? And how does that feel? What kind of personality type are they? How do they interact with you? How much do they pay? How much they feel comfortable paying? And once you have that target client, how about you think of redoing your customer persona? That is the kind of person, the kind of customer that you really want to have. It's like drawing a photograph of that person, and you describe their demographics, you describe what kind of business they have, what affects them, what they like, their dislikes, everything around that target persona or that customer persona. A very cool thing is if you name them. You give them a name, because sometimes you have different services, or maybe you are targeting different target markets or different customer personas, different target clients, and having a name for each type of client really helps you to get it right. So how do you feel about what we shared today? How do you like this concept of reviewing your personal brand? That is something that I would be more than happy to help you anytime. That's one of my specialties, something that I really enjoy doing. We can jump on a Zoom call and have a look at your personal brand, how it looks today, how happy you are really with the different aspects and nuances of your brand, and what we can do to improve it, what we can do it to make it more powerful and more compelling. So if you like this idea, share this podcast episode, leave your comments, and I would love to know what is the most impactful learning you've had in regards to your personal brand. What have you learned? Maybe some understanding later on in your professional life, or maybe something that you learn. It could be something negative or positive, something that you've learned when you started in business or when you first created your personal brand. I would love to hear from you. So leave your comments, and I will look forward to hearing you from your comments or to read you. And I invite you to listen to my podcast on the next episode of Sales Strategy. Thank you very much for listening this week. This is Nathan Manzaneke, a business owner and consultant in marketing and sales, and a speaker. So if you're an ambitious person and you're looking for advanced growth in your business to help you achieve your objectives, or maybe you want to know where to place your focus in your business for this current growth phase in your business, please come and visit nathanmanzaneke.com. I'll be more than pleased to help you with your objectives.